The issue of bioweapons being used in the war in Ukraine has now reached the United Nations Security Council. An emergency meeting of the Council has been called today at the request of Russia, who alleges that the United States is funding research into creating bioweapons in Ukraine. Both the United States and Kiev have denied these allegations and say that this is a sign that Moscow could soon use the weapons itself. Western countries have in fact charged this as a ruse by Russia to lay the groundwork for using bio and chemical weapons in Ukraine, something that Moscow has been accused of doing in Syria.
Они обвиняют нас, снова нас, что мы якобы разрабатываем бактериологическое оружие, якобы готовим химическую атаку. Меня это очень беспокоит, потому что не единожды мы убеждались уже. Хочешь узнать о планах России, посмотри, в чем Россия обвиняет других. Послушайте, разгонка таких обвинений в российских СМИ сама по себе показывает, что это они на такое способны. Российские же военные, российские же спецслужбы показывают, что они этого хотят. Они уже делали такие вещи в других странах. Точно так же. Сами анонсировали, сами организовывали, сами жаловались и сами будут делать еще. Снова и снова, если их не остановить.
This is a government that has used banned chemical weapons on its own people in the past. They've done so on Russian territory. They've done so on British soil. They have supported the brutal Assad regime, which itself has used banned chemical weapons on its people. So we know what this government will resort to, can resort to, has resorted to in the past. But the other element that gives us a good deal of concern is what we know about the Kremlin's tactics, especially its disinformation tactics.
And WION correspondent Giles Gibson is now joining us live from Latvia for more on this story. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, there is increasing worry over chemical or bioweapons being used in this war. The United Nations Security Council is to convene today at Russia's request to discuss Moscow's claims of the United States' biological activities in Ukraine as well. What can you tell us about this?
Well, the Russian mission to the United Nations in New York is saying that it is calling this meeting of the Security Council to discuss military biological activities of the US on the territory of Ukraine. As you were saying just a minute ago, there was just an instant reaction to this from the US mission to the United Nations, describing these claims as laughable. We also have had the State Department in Washington weighing in on this, saying that Russia is inventing false pretexts in an attempt to justify its own horrific actions in Ukraine. I think a little bit of context that is also really worth noting here is that the World Health Organization has confirmed to the Reuters news agency that it told the Ukrainian government to destroy what it called high-threat pathogens that were being studied inside civilian laboratories. So things like COVID-19, like the coronavirus, being studied in civilian laboratories. There has been absolutely no evidence provided by Russia or anybody else that these military biological labs, these accusations that the US and the Ukrainians were working together on military activities, there is absolutely no evidence so far to support that.
Right, absolutely. Now, it's also being said that the allegations by the Kremlin are straight out of the Russian playbook and a ruse to lay groundwork for use of such weapons by Russia itself. How do you assess these comments?
Well, I think we just have this concerted effort from both the US and the UK to really say that, or accuse Russia of trying to prepare the ground for some sort of chemical weapons use inside Ukraine in the future. We had Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, putting out this long thread on Twitter detailing why the Americans think that the Russians are accusing the US of collaborating with the Ukrainians on chemical laboratories inside Ukraine. We then had Boris Johnson, the UK Prime Minister, coming out and backing up what the White House, what the US administration have been saying, hinting that there is some sort of game being played here by Russia Of course, the Russians throughout this conflict so far have been sticking to their message. They've been saying that they are only targeting civilian infrastructure,
right.
Although, of course, after that maternity ward, that hospital was hit in Mariupol in
right.
Ukraine, then that claim is very much up for debate.
Right, absolutely. Now, speaking of Mariupol, now President Zelensky accuses Russian forces of targeting a humanitarian corridor in the city of Mariupol. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so far what we've seen is really just more airstrikes in Dnipro, in that city. We've had reports that one person has been killed in those airstrikes that have gone on in the early hours of Friday local time in that city. We've also been getting some fresh information, some fresh satellite imagery of the convoy that we've been talking about a lot over the last few days, that 40-mile long convoy that has been stalled on the border just outside Kiev. That convoy, what we're hearing is that has dispersed, and so the potential is that is the Russian convoy getting ready for some sort of an attack on Kiev.
Right. All right, Raz, thank you so much for your inputs on this. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.